What up? Random Rockers. Before I even get to this, I'm probably going to do it. Says, fuck it. I have the platform for it. It's not much of one, but I'm hoping it will help him. But something happened with one of my cousins, a relative of mine. One of my closer cousins, I would say. Apparently, during a job site, he unfortunately wasn't tied down well enough, and something happened to where when he moved, he fell off, and he wasn't tied down, so we didn't have a rope to save him, and he fell all the way ground, about somewhere between 2 to 5 stories. Basically, a fall that would basically kill anyone. He's somehow alive, kicking and able to remember who he was and all this shit, because he remembered who I was, though apparently he's having a hard time texting and all this stuff. But anyways, a brief summary and synopsis of the situation, sort of in the description. And yeah, it sucks. It's a personal situation. I don't know if some of you have I'll probably put a link in there below. I believe some of you might have used my links I put out for both Smash and Ben, so I figured why not throw that out there for you guys for something a little more closer to home. So far it looks like he's at 1,000 something, but in order to pay off the debt that he'll probably have to deal with from the medical bills that help save him and all that stuff, and he needs about roughly 10 grand. So or at least that seems to be what the max out total is for the GoFundMe. So link to that is going to be there. I put one on my personal page somewhere on Facebook, but I don't know if I'll put it in my. But anyways, I figured I'd put that there. Or at least that's what I think is the story. With what's happened, I know I know that he fell on the job and it was pretty severe to where he had to be hospitalized for a while. It was kind of in a comatose state for a little bit, and he's out of it, luckily. He's able to sort of do things. Well, he's still pretty damaged, but he's trying to recover, and so far some of that money is also probably to help recovery too. So it'd be helpful. I appreciate it. I will put a link in the description. Hopefully you check that out. If not, I will hopefully leave something in the comments section, or one of the two, or both, something. Hopefully to help him out. So, that being said, let's stop right there and get to a bunch of albums that came out apparently not this week, but this past week, because there's really not a whole lot going on this rest of this year for me personally, aside from catching up on some stuff that I've already listened to earlier in the year, and some that I hadn't had a chance to, blah, 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 or things I didn't get a chance to talk about. That will be the next video, and then after that, I will be doing a best of the year for 2020, and if anything happens in between any of that, it will probably be some movies for probably No Way Home for Spider-Man and The Matrix. That's your update on everything, including some slight of life thing, but yeah, that's what's going on with that. So now that that's all that stuff is out of the way, I'll probably mention the other updates again with the channel after I'm done with this video. But moving on to the albums, starting with Volbeat, Servants of the Mind. And that opener, Temple of Akur. Yeah, that's good. This is my first time. I said screw it because I heard Shotgun Blues and I liked what I heard. Which, by the way, there's also apparently, there's 2 different versions of that and some other song. They're a Danish band that's been around for the past decade and a half, or decade and a quarter, something around there. That is essentially an interesting blend of rock and roll rockabilly style music with heavy metal, specifically the more groove thrash-oriented style of it, blended in with the rockabilly style. More so groove, I'd say. And it blends real well. Though, some reason, because I think when they had a big hit around here in the States for, that was, I forgot the name of it, but I know it involved, oh yeah, it's, Feel the Power of a Warrior, something like that. And I understand from that song, it seems a bit too punchy. That's not how this band is. There's more to them than that. And Faridi, or The Bliss, was a song I wound up in my old band trying to learn. So I got acquainted enough through a lot more with them through that, and I've been waiting for an excuse to talk about this band or try to deep dive. I didn't get a chance to do that part, but let's just say I like what I hear from this album enough that I'm considering doing it. But maybe not enough to... Is it enough to be an album... to make an album of the year? Despite recency bias? No. In fact, a lot of the albums that I'm going to be talking about are going to wind up having that issue. One that I might be in consideration for even honorable mentions, but I don't know if I would say it's this album. The songs that I do like from this record were... I mean, Wait a Minute, My Girl is probably the most rockabilly track on here. The Sacred Stones, and I think Shotgun Blues that follow that, which were the singles. I understood the Sacred Stones being something, for sure, but I was more into Shotgun Blues. Song is something. Say No More, a lot of people talk a lot more about that one. But for the most part, it seems that I've told they've been more poppier in recent releases. And, I mean, there's no exceptions in moments of this record, but it seems they're a little bit heavier in places around here. It does get monotonous after a while, though, like Dayagon 4, which features, I believe, the daughter, I guess, of one of the members of the band doing the chorus, which winds up, there is a version where it's the frontman's vocals instead, that you can go off of instead, but it's kind of a weird English versus main chorus is Danish or something. But yeah, so far the songs I do like was like the singles, of course, the opener Temple of Akur. I definitely liked. And there's a version with Dave Matrice from, I believe, a sort of a grindcore or death metal band called Jungle Rot, I think is the name of that band. He has an involvement in, I believe, the verses of the song. More so or less, and I think he does a little bit of background in the chorus. And some of the bridge, I think. Which is interesting. Don't get me wrong, it does add a more death and roll feel to the track. And a very interesting, or there was ever a blend of death and roll psychobilly type of a thing. Which, psychobilly is already technically sort of what you're getting from this band, essentially, because it's mixing heavy metal, which is what's a better term of mixing heavy metal with said genre, unless there's a metallobilly. I'm surprised they haven't come up with that term, but I mean, there's always punkabilly and gothabilly and all these other things, but in this case, I'd say metallobilly. Let's go with that. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. As far as this album is concerned, I liked this album. I don't know if I'll be spinning it as much more. Dominoes, I think I'm trying to remember where the exact last track really is. I think it's Lacey's Brigetti, which was Brigitta is a good closer for sure. Though I think the other tracks were turning down to Domino or bonuses. And Domino, I think, was probably the cringiest thing I've heard on this thing. Some people say they have an issue with Becoming, but I think it's okay. It's fine. Say No More is okay. Design's okay. I mean, there's not too much, I guess, to talk about that you haven't already heard, I guess. Maybe being the crutch this album might have, given how far along they are as a band. So, other than that, I mean, best I can say is thumbs up for now. At the most. With some mixed leaning to positive sort of a thing. I guess for this Volbeat album. But I mean, I guess it's not a bad, I mean, I guess it's not a terrible recommendation, I guess, from me, I guess, as to being a starting point, but I wouldn't necessarily say start with this. But I can't give a proper recommendation as to what exactly just yet, because I need to deep dive more. But anyways, that's my thoughts on that record. On to the next one, which is Failure, Wild Type Droid. Okay, so this is a band that was a more grunge, alt metal based band of the 90s that kind of was more bigger around the indie scene than the alternative and more mainstream rock scene. That eventually released a third album that wound up being their final album for a long while, called Fantastic Planet, and it has been considered by the band and many others to be a magnum opus of space rock, which is what they wound up going more into, though they still had their grunge alternative metal moments. But this record definitely focused, and as well as alternative rock, they basically put it in a similar sense to like a band similar to like Hum, which I've talked about on this channel before, that have come out from many of those 90s bands that might have unintentionally inspired like metallic shoegaze, so to speak, or at least a more mainstream essence of it. Yeah, the big single, I did not expect, and I was looking forward to this album, more so because I wanted to talk about their discography. I wanted to deep dive into their discography. And in fact, they've been more space rock ever since that record. And it sort of seems that this record, at the very least, seems they're bringing some of their grunginess back. In fact, even more so, if you look at the way, for those who know their earlier stuff in Comfort and Magnificent, or however that second record with the frog is pronounced. That's the album cover, which they have a song on there that involves a frog. I need to double check here. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's in here somewhere. Well, I thought it was. Anyways, this album, very solid. Water with Hands isn't a terrible thing, but it's Headstand and Submarines were like the singles for this album. I didn't mind the short. They didn't have there's no segues this time. In fact, they would tell you if it was a segue, like they have been the past three since Fantastic Planet. This is the first time since that they have done segues, that they have not done segues, and it's all music. Even though technically they did do segues, but it was somehow within the songs instead of them being separate little tracks, like since Fantastic Planet, which was smarter, I guess. But the segues, at least on that record, sort of work, and at least they let you know it's a. And I think my favorite, of course, the heavier moments that they do go for. Don't get me wrong, like softer moments they do have, like Bring Back the Sound, are great. But I totally like tracks more like Bad Translation or Half Moon was definitely not a bad way to end this record. But yes, I still kind of more gravitate still towards the singles, more so, or at least some songs I didn't like initially, like Submarines, I wound up liking more in the context of the record. So, other than that, I overall enjoyed myself listening to this album, and I would give Wild Type Droid by Failure definitely a thumbs up. There's a potential possibility that it could be one of the only albums on here, I believe, that's going to wind up in my not in my best of the year list, but possibly honorable mentions. It's a possibility. But yeah, onto another album which consists of a collab album, but I'm already going to tell you and warn you, it's not as good as another one I talked about earlier. To further elaborate, we'll find out because we're talking about Eldavar, A Story of Light and Darkness by Kadavar if I'm pronouncing it right, and Elder. The latter band being the reason why I even bothered to check this thing out, because I was hoping, fingers crossed, that they would finally do something that would at least make up for whatever the fuck Omens was. Jesus Christ, that was terrible. Aside from the lead single, apparently, that it was on the record, I didn't mind that sound that they had with the production that it had, but I just didn't like the choice of synths in the production. Now, this record is closer in production, both in the production styling, to their earlier stuff. Though it's more a Kadavar album, and as someone who's not used to this, and his vocals are fine. They're okay. In fact, I'm not disappointed in this in comparison, but I'm already just gonna tell you, this album's nowhere near as good, I'd say. But in the way, really, it was like a stops the album feel to a halt a little bit, but it's not until I believe one of the singles that was on the album, El Matador, where both bands eventually do come together in a way, and it seems like we're starting to have a little more fun. And it seems they continue on, though I do feel as though Rebirth of Twins and Respletin, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's Raspletin, as it's how it's spelled. Either way, those two tracks should not have really been separate tracks. They surely feel like they should have just been one contained, nice little jam session. I mean, shit. And Blood Night, Moon Night is definitely a long, but it's worthy song in the best possible way. I don't know if any of these songs I would say would be... And Serial Cheese is okay. It's not it's an okay closer, but, I mean, it's not a thumbs up at the very least. It's a massive step up from whatever Omens was. Oh my god. There's some people that will defend this, but I don't know who. Because so far, most other people, even Fantano, are even saying, what the fuck is this shit? Was that shit? So, but this is better. This is better. And they're going back a little bit more to what we enjoyed of them on Reflections of a Floating World. They're still doing synths, but this time the synths, or at least that are involved in this project, service it well. I don't know what they were doing on that other thing. I didn't quite hate it, but I could tell it was a bit too much of a meander thing. And the jamming sessions, when they jam hard. Fuck yes. But it's still not quite exactly Reflections of the Floating World, so just thumbs up for now. For Eldavar, that's in the story of light and darkness, of darkness and light, I mean. But yeah, whoo-wee. I'm just glad Elder's back on track, and I'm hoping that with their own solo material, their own material itself without collabs. Granted, this collab is not near. Granted, I was spoiled already from the Converge Chelsea Wolf Blood Moon thing. Whew. 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 But, yeah. And sadly, that's... Oddly enough, I got a double album situation from one artist now. If you had seen the thumbnail, you'll know it. And I'm already going to warn you... I was hopeful it wasn't going to be a mess, but then I hear these reviews, and honestly, those reviews kind of saved me from losing my shit. And all it did was just make me go, meh. It's just... And these albums are what they are. They're going to start with... We're going to start with... Devin Townsend's The Puzzle. A puzzle this is. Oh boy. Yeah. Puzzle this is. I mean, you kind of have songs, but not really. And then it gets weird. I mean, like, Hammerhead Sugar Plum, I guess, is something of a song, I guess. Me in the Mood seems kind of catchy. But Starchasm is like the heaviest thing here, but even the production on this thing can't, and the mixing of this is like, what the fuck? I don't know. Like, they needed some more cooks in the kitchen. Or at least they needed more time for this mix to cook. Because it's, yeah. I thought I had certain complaints with the heavier moments on Empath, but no. Which was my most minor complaint. It's still awesome track, but no, that's not what happened here. I was like, wow. And Monuments of Glitch is okay, I guess. But yeah, this puzzle. The whole thing about this was these are like the quarantine albums. And technically he's got like 3 of them. There'll be a third album that's supposed to come out there. I might actually be able to try and deep dive into some Devin Townsend by then. Maybe, depending on what comes out prior. That'll catch me off guard. But yeah, life is but an... But yes, yeah, there's nothing super heavy. It's with this one, but it's a very way lesser than what Empath is. Let's just say I just stick with the new album from just stick with Colors 2, guys. I'm dead serious. Don't even bother with this album. Wait till whatever he's come out in March. Hopefully that's actually good. Or great. We'll see what that turns out. I'm bummed because Devin's usually more of a genius, and unfortunately he held back these albums till now because he needed to make sure all the stuff that goes with it, the drives he had for each one is supposed to do something to add thing, but the music by itself is incomprehensible. And it's just noise and chaotic noise, and it's just noise that's sort of supposed to assemble music. It's not Yoko Ono, thank God, but it's not what we've been getting the past 2 albums I've talked about. Luckily, there's one thing that is salvageable of these things, but yeah, this one, I don't even feel like I don't feel like coming back to this. I never thought I'd have to do that to Devin, but I still like, if you're that avid of a fan, like if anything, if you're just that avid of a fan and you just want to get the album anyways, as a collector's thing, and it's just to put on your shelf, then fine. But in terms of being able to go back to listen to this thing, don't even bother. Don't really bother. The same I could kind of say about this album, but I would rather give this album more praise, and that album is Devin Townsend's Snuggles. Yeah, don't listen to this in a car, by the way. Sorry about that. Hat fail. But yeah, don't listen to that in a car. Like, it did sort of put me to sleep. It kind of is his job. But I had more interesting experience with an album from fucking Loathe this year. So, and yeah. It's better. It's more cohesive. But for the most part, it's just more new age ambient music. I wouldn't say it's better than Ghost, because at least Ghost had moments where you can get a sense of energy in it, out of it, or something. Or yet alone, I would rather listen to Casualties of Cool in that regard. But yeah, I would say overall, between what I'd said about the puzzle and then what I have to say about Snuggles, these 2 projects, yeah, this at the very least, I'd do this and I'd give it a little bit more of a positive. And I guess in between them, it's just straight up mixed bag, I guess. But yeah, I'm super bummed. I'm just bummed. I was hoping to get a little bit better out of Townsend, but thing is, you gotta have some stuff to go with it, apparently, because it needs that. It's like, well, why can't the music itself speak for itself? I mean, I get that it has something to do with the whole quarantine thing, and The Snuggles thing being that, and what I said about the puzzle is more just the sheer chaos of how everything has been within 2020, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the name of the next record is. It's supposed to come out in March, but at least from what I'm hearing, it's possibly could be some strapping shit. So I'm looking forward to that. It's definitely gonna be like a. After Snuggles, that's definitely gonna wake your ass up. So hopefully, because he's been back more into strapping stuff. So if you liked Love or anything of that nature, or even the Ziltoid stuff to a point, on the heavier side at least, that album might work. We'll see. But overall, yeah, I understand. Just for morbid curiosity or for collector's items, I'm not really that enthused to go get this record, but I would get it just for collector's probably purposes, and that'd be it. But I wouldn't like immediately seek out it. But give Devin some love, because he at least tries. There's something to it, but clearly that he's trying to do. But the fact that he delayed the albums for that, and it didn't matter, because the albums itself aren't connecting with anyone, and people are willing to compare this sort of to DevLab and Hummer. Among your weaker ones, though to the extent where people would prefer this over those records. But to me, I find these to be a lesser than extremely weaker. Since this double album package is an extremely weaker version of what you would get from his DTP days, from the DTP masterpieces that are considered to be Deconstruction and Ghost. I would rather you listen to those records. Go back and listen to those over these. I didn't want to talk about Devin Townsend like that, guys. I really didn't. But it just so happens that this is one of his just weird moments that even is just kind of not for me this time around. Sadly. Sad. I didn't really want to end it on that low note, but yeah, it is what it is. But what did you guys think of the albums I was talking about? What did you think of Volbeat, Eldavar, Wild Failure, and Devin Townsend's records? Are they worth seeking out before the end of the year lists? Leave a comment below, let me know. And as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. I will see you in the next video, whatever that may be among what I had announced earlier in the video. Also, links in the description to my Facebook page, like and follow me there. If you like this video, rock the like button with thrust if you must. Hit the subscribe button, click all notification bells. And, yeah, I think that's it. And some other links as well you should check out. And take care, y'all. 2021 ain't over just yet, at least not on my end. So, once again, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking.